Welcome to Productive Joy with Dr. Christy, where fun meets action.
Hi, friends. Welcome to Productive Joy. Today you are in for a treat. I have a friend with me who is going to just brighten your day with a little spot of sunshine. So before I get into Erin and all of her greatness, I would love for you to follow this podcast. If you're not already subscribed, you won't get automatic notifications that new stuff is here, and you won't hear from people like Erin, and that's no fun. So make sure that you're subscribed, and I want you to share it with all the humans you know, because the more you share it, the more people get a little shot of B12 from this bad boy. So today I have with me Erin Bro. Erin and I had the opportunity to meet over the summer, but we've actually worked together in some capacity or another for probably a decade, which is pretty cool. But Erin is a lot of things. So yes, Erin's an educator and a wife, but she's also a horse enthusiast, specifically a cowgirl. She's a ballroom dancer. She is a girl hockey mom, which is a unique distinction for sure. She's a gardener. She's also a backyard chicken farmer and a project enthusiast who loves a good DIY. Erin, welcome to Productive Joy.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here with you.
This is going to be fun. And the reality is, and you know this because as an educator, we all know this, people have a very short attention span. So you have about 30 seconds to say something that's going to get people to go, oh my gosh, I cannot wait to listen to this episode. So knowing that information, what would you say to our listeners real quick to get them excited?
I love looking at the small nuances for where we can make big changes and big moments.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So I kind of feel like you need to say more. So that was perfect. And can you give me an example of a small change that's turned into a big, or a small nuance that's turned into a big change?
I think one thing is actually in the classroom, we really were seeing that students have a very narrow idea of what future careers look like. You know, when you ask kids, what do you want to be? We've got the same 3-4 answers every single time. And one of the things that we decided to tweak was front loading and building exposure and bringing in different careers, female pilot, a graphic designer. And that was just a moment, right? Like it was one volunteer who came in and spoke about a career. And that has actually created now 3 or 4 kids who have gone on and applied to Embry-Riddle Aeronautical School or really thought about alternative things within that career. We have kids who are now majoring in social work because they never knew what social workers do. And so we took this moment where we kept hearing the same things and said, what can we bring in? That's not a big thing. It's not a big change. We're not going to devote or change our entire curriculum, but what's a little tweak we can do to present this? And it makes me really happy when I see them furiously taking all the notes and really connecting. And then the biggest moment is when they go down and talk to that guest speaker afterwards. And that's just really brought me a lot of joy.
Oh, I love that. And so to give some context, you are a high school educator, but you didn't necessarily start there and you've done a whole lot of other things too. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your journey? Tell us little Erin to now.
Oh gosh, little Erin thought she was going to be a veterinarian. Actually, I'm sorry. First, little Erin thought she was going to be a jockey. I really wanted to be a jockey. Little Erin got too big. And so the jockey thing was not going to work out. Little Erin thought she was going to be medium Erin thought she was going to be a veterinarian and follow the route of our horses and going down that. And turns out not a great math student. Not going to say I gave up. I didn't. I did all 4 years of math in high school, but I just knew it wasn't where I wanted to spend the majority of my time in college. And so I shifted again and I was like, I'm going to go to law school. That's what I'm going to do. And I went the English major route, did the whole thing. I even interned at the DA's office. I had an opportunity, said yes to something that was kind of out of my wheelhouse. And it was nerve-wracking. I had to buy all new clothes for it because as a graduating college student, I didn't have professional work clothes. But I had a chance to work in the sexually violent predators unit of the Orange County DA's office. And man, if that's not an intense experience, really learning about a faction of society that I was really blessed to not have to deal with
Yeah.
when I was growing up. So that really exposed me to a lot. And one of my bosses, the attorneys I worked for, really stood out and said, "Hey, I know how many things make you smile in a day. I know what you come in talking about you did over the weekend. And I just don't know that this is going to afford you to continue that lifestyle. And I think you should really think about it." And my whole world blew up. Like when you've really devoted and focused all of your attention in one area, and then somebody tells you like it's not going to be what you think, it can really send you down a road you don't want to go.
Yeah.
So luckily, one of my friends was teaching and she was like, "Just apply with me. I bet you can get in really quickly." And I did. It was great. I was so excited. And I told myself at the time, you know what? I remember being a high school student. I want to be the teacher that kids connect with. I want to be somebody who can speak to them in a relevant way. And so I don't think I'm going to stay in this for more than 5 years because in my head, like 30, but no longer relevant to high school students.
Hilarious. And
Right?
maybe in some cases accurate, but not most.
So I don't know why, but in my head, 30 seemed at
Really
the tail
old.
end of it. Yeah, like
Ancient.
you're not going to speak to these kids anymore. And then I had a chance after 3 years of teaching English to take over Avid. And I was like, you know what? I'll give it 4 years. I will give it 4 years so I can see the freshmen all the way through because I love relationship building. That's a really big thing for me. And 4 years went by and they offered me my dream spot back in English, teaching my favorite levels. And I was like, I can't leave. I'm sorry. 14 years later, here I am. I'm still doing Avid. And you know what? I'm actually still relevant.
You are 100% relevant, Erin. You will always be relevant because you're real, right? You're authentic. So let's back up because I'm not sure everybody listening knows what Avid is. You and I are very well versed in what it is, and I always love to hear people's definitions. So how would you define Avid to somebody that is not a part of the education space?
Avid here is a 4-year program, and we really rely on the relationship that's built in those 4 years. And so for us, we have a commitment from freshman year through that. And we look at a multifaceted support system here. We want our students to learn the foundations to being a successful, independently driven student who really is somebody who takes responsibility for the ownership of their own transcript, what it's going to look like by the end of high school. And we help them move that transcript and tell a story in whatever direction they want to go. If they want to go the college route, if they want to go trade school, if they want to go military, we help them hone in and practice early on exposure to multiple areas that can help them decide what direction and they want their story to go. But that's really what we try and do is build a story with the student from the beginning and layer in all of the little things that they don't even realize are big, big things like support through Avid tutorials, which are tutoring sessions in class where they're learning to dive into problems and work their way through things. When they're learning how to go out and do community service and learn how to speak to adults in a professional setting, how to be self-starters, how to take notes, how to study for exams. All of those things become lessons that get folded in without being said, this is a lesson. I'm going to teach you to do this right now. It's kind of like almost the learn by doing method. And I love that.
Well, and you are masterful at it. And because you just told your story start to finish, and I'm hearing it in that way, you were made for this because you went to school for 4 years for something you thought you might like and got out there in the real world and went, oh gosh, maybe not, right? And you had to pivot. But you are now taking students in their prime years, that 14, 15-year-old student, and saying, let's talk about all the things you love and all the things you don't love. And how do we make sure that you are set up for success for life and you don't have to struggle through all of that? So thank you for being a waymaker and a sense maker and just an overall rock star. I have seen you with your kids. I have seen you with adults too. And you are really exceptional at making people feel something a little different than maybe they felt before before they knew you. And that's the part that's magical. So if you're watching this right now and you can see this beautiful woman sitting next or in front of me, I guess, the way your face lights up when you talk about your students, the way that you become animated is so clear that you are producing joy every single day, that you love what you do. And my favorite question to ask people is, what is your definition of productive joy? How would you describe productive joy to someone?
I think if you had asked me this a few years ago, my definition would have been different. And I think that because I really experienced some hardships in my life and coming through those, teaching myself how to find joy again, redefined it for myself. And now I think that one of the biggest senses of joy that are really when you speak about productive joy to me is finding that ability to be honest and vulnerable, because the joy that comes from that is really beautiful and it's very authentic. You can't fake how that would light you up. And it really comes from like struggle and coming out the other side. And that is something you have to face head on. It's not something that you can create a fake way or feel like you maybe got through it through somebody else's story. You have to live it and you have to do that work. And for me, that was really productive joy.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing, you thought you were going to stop being relevant to students at 30. I get that. I fully and completely understand that. But what you just said is that it takes time to understand what you've been through so that you can help somebody else through the same things. So Ed Milet talks a lot about we're perfectly designed to help the person we used to be, right? And help somebody get past the things. And so that's what you do. That's what you get paid for, right? Like that's what your career. But I think what you do as a human is you help people get over the hard things and understand that there's something better on the other side. And that's a true gift. And that's a gift I think every leader would really want to have. So this podcast is for people who are leading others, who want to do things differently and want to make that kind of magic that you're talking about happen. What advice would you have for somebody that's leading others? Because here you're building the future workforce and you are creating these unbelievable human beings who do know what they love and do want to do them. What advice would you have for their future bosses to make sure that they are giving them the opportunity to shine?
Oh, wow. That's a really interesting projection. Like very interesting because it's hard to take yourself out of your boss right now, like in current leaders, because there's shifts. There's little micro shifts in each generation.
Mm-hmm.
And as we're, like you said, becoming more perfectly designed to help the prior person, and we're making those shifts already in them, they're coming into the workforce in such a different space. There's such a concern sometimes about protocols or check marks and moving through things in a systematic way, corporate way. And I think that one of the biggest suggestions I would have is having the ability to be flexible in order to maximize and leverage the people's innate abilities who are coming into your office and your space, your classrooms. Not everybody's going to be a great lecturer. Not everybody's going to be a great technology person. But when you can move away from a checklist in order to really let somebody flourish and build the confidence in that space, I think that's something that future leaders need to know how to be able to do.
Yeah.
Because otherwise they're going to put caps on people before they ever know what they can do. I have a kid right now who he's all over the place. But
You mean he's a high schooler?
yeah, turns out, and a freshman at that. So you can just imagine the balls this kid bounces off.
I feel it. Yes.
But turns out we did a spirit wear design contest for our next Avid Spirit Wear. And this kid put together fantastic designs. Fantastic. I didn't see it coming. And so now I was like, you should be taking 2D animation next year, maybe drawing and painting. You could be going down architecture. You could go graphic design. You could do all these things. And then I truly believe there's connections in the brain of different things that make you good at other things. Now he's showing this incredible talent for chemistry. And it's like, how do you not put him on a platform to say, hey, why don't you be a group leader and help these kids who aren't doing well, even though you're still learning it yourself? Like, but you got it. Like, explain it now. So I think if you can find those moments, even sometimes when they're unexpected or they don't go sequentially in the order of what you're thinking as a leader you need to do, maximize it, water it, fertilize it, grow it.
Erin, you just took us somewhere that everybody needs to go. You said so many things. So what I heard was know your people. Let your people shine in the way they're designed to shine. And that can't be done on a checklist. And then trust that when they show you an ability, that is going to turn into something amazing. We don't do that. Right. In our adult life, we get hired to do a thing, and this is our job description, and thank you very much, and stay in your box. Right. But you, educators in general, still get to mold and shape. But we as leaders, regardless of whether we're leading in a classroom or in a whatever C-suite, we have to let people figure out who they are and continue to get better. And I know, they're calling this Gen Z and now Gen something else, Alpha, or I don't even know.
Alpha, I'm not sure.
Yeah, right. So you kind of split those two, right? You've got both in your classrooms, and they are going to be the workforce. They are also going to be our bosses because they're going to move fast and furious through the process. But I think the more we understand that people want to be a part of the solution instead of being told to solve it, right? Like it's a nuance, but this is something I know to be true about my own children who are 23, and I want to hear how you take this. Gen Zers specifically don't want to be told, I need 3 social media campaigns on my desk by tomorrow. They want to say, here's what we're struggling with. We're having a hard time getting people to engage with our posts. Could you please create a campaign that will get people to engage and let them solve the problem versus saying, I need 3 of these on this day by this time? Do you agree with that assessment? And what should we do about knowing that information?
Yeah, you're right. When you put it that way, you're absolutely correct. And that's an interesting realization. When you put it that way and you define it, they don't like a hard finish line or a checklist.
Mm-hmm.
They like the approach with creativity. They like to be able to maximize and flex their talents and their areas where they know how they can do something better than you.
Yeah.
Sometimes like they don't think it, they might say, well, you don't need 3 posts to do that. I can do it in 1.
Right.
You're just doing it in a terrible way. And let me show you.
You're doing it like an old lady because you're no longer relevant.
Yeah. All the things. Yes. So for them, I think they immediately go to, but you don't need that. You're not, my solution is not the same as their solution.
Yeah.
And they want that flexibility to be able to approach it.
So it takes a very strong and self-confident leader to be okay with that. Right. So as the teacher in the room, you're in charge. And when a kid comes to you and says, we can do that in 1 post, not 3, as an example, you have to be okay with saying, you know what, you're right. And I think that's okay. Same is true as a person who is in charge of others, right? People manager, I think, is the popular phrase that we use now. And so people manager are the humans who are in charge of other humans. And with those folks comes I'm in charge, and that can be handled one of 2 ways. I'm in charge, but the people that are working with me and for me are a lot smarter than I am. I need their input, or I'm in charge and you will do it my way. I think you and I both know it works a whole lot better, the former, not the latter. But again, as you're thinking about what you've learned over the last couple decades of being in your space, how do you build enough confidence to be okay with somebody coming at you with a better solution than yours?
Oh my gosh. I used to really struggle with OCD tendencies. Like
Mm.
I really did. And as I've gotten older and grown in confidence, those have started to dissipate a little bit, which is interesting because I think what you're saying is the confidence to allow delegation, to allow other people to take on responsibility. When there's a lack of confidence, you feel like you have to micromanage.
Yeah.
And that you have to have your fingers in every aspect. And that's not something that's going to work with this next generation coming in. And it's hard to be a leader who says, I trust you.
Yeah.
I empower you. Here's my idea. Take it and run with it. What can you bring back?
Right.
And let's talk about. And to shift from being somebody who's micromanaging to being somebody who's part of the solution team, who's part of the conversation instead of dictating the conversation. And so, like you were saying, that generation, Gen Alpha, they want to be part of the conversation. They want to be part of, well, I think it can be done in one post, and here's how we would attack it. Now that leader has to also shift into that team.
Yeah.
And yeah, you might be like turning the rudder on the boat a little bit here and there, but you're also asking, what's the win factor? What are the sales doing? Like you're having to take in information
Right.
as part of it. And I think that that's where some of the strongest leaders shine is when their teammates or the people who are being on their team know that they can talk to them.
Yeah.
Know that they can have influence because the strongest leaders listen and they make adjustments.
Yeah. And that is so well said. Strongest leaders do listen. And I like that you said going from micromanagement to being part of the solution team, because it's also not about one person. Like, okay, yes, you're in charge of this project, but we have to work as a team because we're better together. That synergy, that solutions oriented approach to things. So again, I've been an educator all my life, but most of it has actually been spent teaching adults, which is a shift, right? Now you have spent the bulk of your career in that 14 to 18, 19, 20, however long they spend their age bracket, right? Those high school kids. And having done it myself, I also taught high school. It is an unbelievable exercise in orchestration, right? Like you have to somehow get 30 people who have 30 different opinions on how to do things to go in the same direction at the same time. So I think that's also true, for people who are running teams. We have to get a whole lot of different opinions to be going in the same direction at the same time. So what tip or trick have you discovered works really, really well when you have a whole lot of different opinions and you need to somehow come to consensus? What's a way that you make that happen?
Wow.
No pressure or
Coming
anything.
hard today. You're just coming hard.
Or maybe
There
give an example of when you've done it. That works too.
Okay. Yeah. There's sometimes a big conversation in our classes of how are we going to approach this? Or if I give a presentation, for example, a presentation assignment, and I have done this presentation, I have given the rubric, I have given the outline like 14 times to Tuesday at this point, and I know how this goes together. What I found in the last couple years is the technology tools have become so much greater that now students are coming and they're like, well, we want to do it this way. Can we do it this way? Can we present like this? And for me, I don't necessarily always need a consensus on the whole group. I need a team to come to a consensus on how they want to approach it and how they want to show that they can get the assignment done in their way, in the way they agree to it. And what we'll usually do is take one group who wants to showcase it in one way, and those different maybe 3 ways that they want to do the presentation are going to be the first 3 signups. And then the other groups get to pick what avenue do they want to go down because it worked the best for them. So there's been points where a lot of flexibility is okay, and you can allow for there to be multiple roads being taken within the one room.
Yep.
In an area where I've had to actually have like everyone on the same page, I've usually said, look, this is what you guys know. I will listen and I will make accommodations wherever we can. This time I need it to run like this, and here's why.
Yeah.
And I'll lay out my reasoning for, I realize like you guys might want to do it this for way, but through experience, I learned that this needs to happen in this sequential order. So I need you to be on with me here. Like, for example, college applications, right? Like they want to jump around to like all different applications. And I've learned this systematic way that just works better. And I said, for this moment, I need everybody to come together and we need to be lockstep. And then you can go off on your own again. But I need us to come together. And I really feel like bringing that why in, and not just once, but 3, 4 times, however many times I have to bring that connection to why it's important. It always comes back to that. If I can validate and say and give them a reason that they hear and it connects, really, really, it's cemented for them. I've never had a problem making consensus. But when we leave the door open, yeah, they're going to try this way and that way. And sometimes hey, because I learned from it too.
Yeah.
And I make adjustments for the next time.
Well, Erin, you answered it exactly the way I thought you would. And this is what I wanted people to hear. You know when to be tight and when to be loose. You know what guardrails need to be in place in order for the end result to be what you wanted it to be. And you're able to set people up for success in that. So here again is what I heard. So you said, I create the rubric and the expectations, and this is what the end result needs to accomplish. You can take any of the different avenues you wish, as long as the end result is accomplished. Isn't that every work experience anybody's ever had? Is we got to get to this end product. I don't care how you get there. I don't care how many times you meet. I don't care if you meet once and you do it asynchronous, synchronous. I don't care. I just need it to be done, and it needs to fit this criteria, right? So that was awesome. But then you also said, but there are times when it has to look like this. You know, you have a newspaper deadline, I'm putting newspaper in air quotes because how old am I? But you know what I mean? Like this article has to be out on this certain date and it has to cover these things. And these are the parameters. I need you to follow me. And here's why. That's what makes you excellent at what you do, is that you know that people will not do anything unless they know why. And they need to be able to flex their independence enough to be successful in whatever space you're asking them to be in. So this is exactly why I reached out to you and said, I think you'd be great for Productive Joy, because you know how to get people to do things because it's what you do for a job, right? And it's actually just who you are. You have this magnetic ability to say, look, I have your best interest in mind and I'm going to do these things, and off we go. So thank you for being willing to share your brilliance with us.
Of course. Are you kidding? Like, I love talking with you. You always give ideas too.
Well, good. I'm excited about that. And we could talk forever. However, people do have a short attention span. So I'm going to give you some rapid fire questions now. And this is where you get to have a little fun. Are you ready?
I am.
Okay. Speaking of, what is your definition of fun?
And this is rapid fire? Okay.
Well, rapid-ish.
My definition of fun is anything not connected to a device, usually. Like, okay. I want to go out, want to be like hands-on in something, whether it's dancing, whether it's gardening, something fun where like my full body is engaged. That's what I like.
That's fun. That is fun. Okay, great. How do you know that you are showing up as your authentic self?
When I am tired, but in a really good, quiet way. Like, my brain's not running 14 million miles an hour, rerunning questions or things I've said. When I can look myself in the mirror at the end of the night and be like, you're going to sleep well tonight. That's when I know.
I love it. I love it. How do you channel your best self on your worst days?
Oh, I've had those.
Mm-hmm.
I have had those. It really means digging deep, taking a deep breath for me and saying, not my circus, not my monkey. This too will pass. I need an hour of my best. And then do what I need to recharge.
I appreciate the time constraint on that, right? Like give yourself a minute, but then and then we got to go back and do the thing. I love it. I love it. So, Erin, you really have given us a masterclass in how do you orchestrate human beings? How do you get them to be the best versions of themselves? How do you create productive citizens? All the things. And so you've said a lot, and this is going to be a hard question. But if people can only remember one thing from all of the great things that you said today, what's the one nugget of wisdom that you really want to leave them with?
I think that being part of the team still allows you to be a leader. And it could be so many things, but the micromanaging or being part of the team, it depends on you. And being part of the team just does not mean that you're not still the leader. You're actually probably going to be a more effective leader.
Oh, I love that. And I need you to know what a leader you are, not just in our industry of education, but in every circumstance I've ever seen you in. And it was a genuine pleasure to spend a little time with you today and to let the world see that, listen, there is no such thing as just a teacher. Teachers are life changers, and the things that they're able to accomplish in a day is far beyond what any of the rest of us are doing. So thank you for what you do. Thank you for serving your beautiful kids at San Clemente High and for just being who you are. I am so glad that I get to introduce you to the Productive Joy family.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's always so much fun talking to you. You make my face light up and smile.
Well, you have a great smile, so it works out well. And for all of our Productive Joy friends, thank you for being here today, for learning from Erin, for spending time figuring out how to do things differently so that you don't have to just be status quo, but you can actually learn really great things. So as always, my send off to you and my reminder is always going to be figure out a way to turn fun into action.